And because we always had the same rank, we always did the same job, we were never together. We were all separate. We each had a helicopter that we were basically in charge of, or made sure that maintenance was done correctly on them. And I asked our drill sergeant, wasn't a drill sergeant, he was just a sergeant in charge of the company. I asked him one time to try to help us if we could fly together with with my friends, if we could fly together one day. That day, he put us together. My helicopter crashed that day, the one I usually fly on. It crashed. Everybody was killed, though. I was supposed to be on it. What else can I say?
Okay, perfect. So today is December 8th, 2014. Since there's so many of us, I'm just going to have everybody say their own name so I don't mess up. This is with Veterans Heritage Project. I'm Paula Burr.
Troy Williams.
Debbie Rozinski.
Roger Rozinski.
Ariana Williams.
All right, now it's all you, sweetie.
Oh, hey. Hi.
Yeah.
So what branch did you serve?
I was in the Army.
Why did you choose the Army?
They chose me.
So you're...
I was drafted.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
So do you recall anything about your training or the first days of your...
Hi, I'm the editor of this video. Please consider subscribing. It means a lot. And let's get into the video.
What did you think of all that?
Well, it was really I was 20 years old when I got drafted, or maybe I was 19. I don't remember. Anyway, it was really my first time long-term away from home.
Right.
And didn't much care for it at first. Basic training was terrible. I should be careful. It sucked. Basic training, I didn't like basic training. It was just Army. It was military. Everything you see in the movies is pretty much the way it was. But you do get, after you get in the drift of things, you get the feel of things, and things get easier as you get the structure and the routine down, things get easier. But basic training was still hard. It was very, very physical. That's what I basically remember most about it. I remember during parts of the training. Well, I remember basic training. There was a one that every morning we had a company muster, I guess you could say. It was on the street, and when we first started, the sergeant he seemed to pick out people to pick on, and he went down. They had a kind of a basic inspection every morning. I was just thinking about this the other day as well. I'm remembering it. This one guy, he looked like he didn't shave that morning. So from that day forward, all through basic training, that guy had to carry a razor in his pocket. So if anybody got caught without a shave, they borrowed that razor to dry shave right there on the street, right there. That's one thing I do remember. And we had another fella there. But they were always picking on him because they would say right face and he'd turn left, and he just had trouble adjusting with rights and left. They were always yelling at his name was Yodar. I don't even know where he was from. And they were always yelling at him, the other left Yodar or the other right Yodar. He was always doing it opposite what he was supposed to do. And that was everybody always got a kick out of that. I don't know what else you're looking for. Those are the two things that really stand out in my head by those two guys. One thing we always heard before we got drafted, when you go in the Army, never volunteer for anything. Don't ever volunteer for anything. And I remember one time we were having It was a battalion. It was a battalion mess gathering. There must have been 1,000 men there. We were all in formation and in different companies, broken up in companies and squads and whatever. But the guy in charge, he was the sergeant major, and he was talking to us, and somebody came up there and whispered in his ear, and he said in the microphone, he said, "Johnson." And everybody named Johnson in the formation raised their hand, and he said, "You'll do." They needed a volunteer, so they just picked a guy out of the group, put it and took him because they needed a volunteer.
Do you know what he had to do?
No, I don't. We never knew. We never knew. But I remember also when I got out of basic training, my drill sergeant was still looking on my fatigues for my name. He didn't know who I was. I was one of the quiet few that they never learned my name, because I just kept quiet. Stayed out of trouble. Don't volunteer.
Oh, what? So, which wars did you serve in?
But
Which wars did
Vietnam,
Vietnam?
just Vietnam. Yeah, that was enough.
So, where did you travel at all during that, or where were you stationed?
No, I was in. You mean in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was a helicopter mechanic, helicopter crewman. I was stationed in Chu Lai, Vietnam. I put that on that paper, Chu Lai. That was our base of operation. I decided when I got there, I was only gonna be in Vietnam for 10 months because I was a 2-year draftee, and I spent all my time in the States training. And I decided I was only gonna fly. You volunteer. Everybody had the opportunity to fly, be a crewman. I decided before I even went there, I was gonna fly for 5 months, and then I was gonna do ground maintenance for 5 months. I was gonna split up my time so I had a chance to do both, and that's exactly what I did. I flew for 5 months, and I was on ground maintenance for 5 months. I know you've probably heard other veterans say this also. My time in the service, even though I was a draftee, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I would trade it for the world.
Did you have to do any special training to be a crewman for that, or was it just?
No, it was a long training. Well, first everybody gets drafted 8 weeks basic training, right? And then I had 16 weeks of helicopter training, 4 months, and then I had 2 months of something they made me do. It was advanced leadership training. You came out of that with a Spec 5 rank, and then I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for 2 months for training. And that's why I stayed in the States. So I only had 10 months left when I went to Vietnam, because I spent all the time here training. I tried to get out of that 2 months because the guys that went right to Vietnam out of their AIT, they call it right after basic, they went to Vietnam for a year, and then they got out. We got I forget what they call it now, early out. They got an early out. They didn't have to spend the whole 2 years in the Army. I had to spend the whole 2 years in the Army. 1 year, 11 months, and 23 days.
Were you living in Arizona when you were drafted?
No, I was Michigan. We're from Michigan.
Oh, cool. Do you have any memorable experiences or specific things you remember during
About what?
any time during Vietnam during any of that 2 months of training or other 4 months?
Well, like I say, I was in. I believe basically the reason we're in Arizona right now was my 2 months OJT on the job training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I loved the climate there. It was dry and it was hot, but I loved it. And I think that's why we ended up where we are now, is because I wanted to get in the Western climate, the dry. I don't do well with humidity. I don't know how I ever ended up in Michigan. humidity in winter, that's not agree with me.
Me neither.
But there's a lot of things that I can probably recall from a lot of different things. If you give me a moment, you know.
My phone. Take as long as you want.
Well, I guess I could start off. I was gonna say I'll start out with a big one. I started out with a big one. I was a crewman, right? I was a flight engineer, and I flew. I had 4 really good buddies. We went through training. We went to Vietnam. We ended up in the same place. There were 4 of us, and because we always had the same rank, we always did the same job. We were never together. We were all separate. We each had a helicopter that we were basically in charge of, or made sure that maintenance was done correctly on them. And I asked our drill sergeant, wasn't a drill sergeant, he was just a sergeant in charge of the company. I asked him one time to try to help us if we could fly together with with my friends, if we could fly together one day. That day, he put us together. My helicopter crashed that day, the one I usually fly on. It crashed, everybody was killed. And I was supposed to be on it. What else can I say? And I was just, before you got here, I was looking, probably I'm so sensitive and weepy right now is because I was on the Vietnam website, looking on the virtual wall before you guys got here, just because I was being curious. And the guys that died on the helicopter that day, I didn't even know them. There wasn't anybody that I even knew, except one guy. I did know one guy, but I didn't know him. He wasn't a buddy or anything, but I did fly with him a few times, but I really didn't know him. I knew he was younger than me. He was from South Dakota. But anyway, that's the big one. I don't know where else I can go from there.
Well, what was daily life like?
Daily life like? Well, our helicopter company, we were in the rear, 3 hots and a cot. We had 3 good meals a day, and we had a hot bed. We had a nice bed at night. 3 hots and a cot is what we call it. We were in the rear, and there were certain, you were up at dawn when you were a crew, when you're flying crew. Well, basically maintenance too. When you were up at dawn, and you basically didn't get off until the sun was almost down. Every day, it was a work day every single day. There was once in a while you could get a day off. I don't know if I want to go into this. But anyway, on the air crew, you were up at dawn. You went out and flew your missions. We flew probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours a day, which you put about 6 to 8 hours of flying time on the helicopter, and that took all day to do that. I flew on a Chinook, and that thing it was a gas guzzling machine, is what it was. That thing could eat up 300 gallons of fuel in 2 hours. I mean, it was just, we spent most of our time refueling. Didn't do anything. Well, all we did was resupply to the different LZs. There was a an area where we stopped and picked up our supplies. We either we loaded them inside or we hooked them up underneath. We would take them to the LZs. We probably made 4 or 5 trips every day. In between each trip, there was a fuel. And then at night, you tied it down and went back to the Hooch.
What LZs were you in? Do you know?
What did we
What
do?
area?
It was around, like I say, I was in Chulai, Da Nang. We were just south of Da Nang. I know we went to LZ Siberia, LZ Marianne. Those are the only 2 that I can remember. They were very popular LZs. We spent a lot of time on those. And one time another time we were flying out with supplies. I think it was Marianne. Marianne was the farthest one out. It was the creepiest one because it was just nothing. There was nothing at all. Just jungles, mountains, forest. And I forget how long it took to get there, but probably not an hour, but maybe 45 minutes. I don't know. I'm not sure. Took a long time to get there, and every time you make one trip to Marianne and you had to come back to fuel up because it sucked all the gas up. Why'd I bring up that? Put me back on track.
You said that it's the furthest out. It was creepy, juggly, about
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Why-
One time when we flew out supplies is what you started to Marianne. So.
Oh, I started to say, one time we were flying out there. The helicopter had a maintenance issue. I don't really remember what it was. Helicopter had backup to backup to backup systems, and one of the backup systems got a light or something that broke. It was a hydraulic system. We had to land on the LZ. We had to spend the night there. It was creepy. Yeah, we had to spend the night there, and we had to sleep in a. Well, you've seen these metal guns, these transport guns. It was like that, only it was buried in the ground. The troops that stayed on those LZs, they lived basically underground. It was in a metal box. It was big enough for, it's, big,
Hot.
but that's what. And then the next morning we stayed the night there, and I don't remember exactly, but I don't think I slept very well that night in that little box underground. And they came out and brought us parts the next morning, and we fixed the aircraft and flew it back.
And how many were on the Chinook at a time?
Crew was 5. We had a flight engineer, crew chief, and a gunner, pilot, co-pilot.
What did you do? Which is a 5 again?
I was when I went to Vietnam, I was a Spec 5. So I started out, everybody starts out as a door gunner. That's your job when you first get there. You got to go with it. You got to go to the armory. You got to check out the weapons. You got to check out ammo. You got to carry those things around and carry all the ammo, and you go out to the helicopter they assign you to that day. But after you've been there a while, you're assigned one helicopter. And if you're a crew chief or a flight engineer, you just go to the airplane in the morning and just unbutton it. But the gunner has to drag all the other stuff around. He has to do all the grunt work.
And how many flights would you say you did during your time there, that 5 months of flying?
I got 400 hours, about 400 hours of flying time. Every day there's a log. You keep track of all the time you fly. I think I got 385 or just less than 400.
So stop me if you have a question. Got something yet? Got a question? Okay. I think you said you didn't want to go there. So if this is where you didn't want to go, just tell me. What'd you do in your time off?
Time off?
Yeah, you said that everyone
Oh,
you
okay.
had it. Yeah, and then you went, I don't know. And yeah, sure, let's go.
Well, it's okay. I said we never had a day off.
Right.
Today was work day. Never had a day off. However, there were certain details that you could do to get a day off. I was a Spec 5 and I did not have to do those details, but I could volunteer. I volunteered once. I was, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It was the ship burning detail. Excuse me.
Somebody's got to do it.
And all the bathrooms around the company area. This was the company area where we lived. There's outhouses. It's all outhouses. There's no plumbing. And under each hole, under the holes of the outhouse, there is a 55-gallon drum cut in half. So the open end is up. It's like a bucket underneath the hole. And the job of that detail is to gather all those pails, all those half 55-gallon drum, and you bring them all to one place and you dump them all together. You throw a few gallons of diesel fuel in them and you light them on fire. And they burn till they're almost gone. And you take the buckets back to the outhouses. And I don't really remember how many outhouses there were we had to do, but I only did that detail once.
You must have really wanted a day off.
I did. I did want a day off. Well, another way to get a day off was to have guard duty, and that was on a regular schedule. But I really don't remember how often that was. But I didn't like guard duty. Basically, we were right on the coast. The Red China Sea was right there, and you're in a guard shack. It's just like you see in the movies. It's a guard shack where you're watching a certain area. And that wind would blow in off the water, and you would just freeze to death. And you'd freeze to death at night watching the water. And I didn't like it. But we all had to do it. Even, I think all the ranks had to do it, except the officers. And if you did guard duty overnight, it was at nighttime, you got the next day off. You could catch up on your sleep or go to the PX. And we lived, our base was probably, oh man, this seemed like miles from the PX. In our Hooch, all the guys everybody had a little area where they lived, and everybody had a little refrigerator, the college type refrigerator. Everybody had one of those. And you go to the PX and buy soda pop. Everybody had to do that too. Every time you had a chance, you go to the PX and buy soda pop. We had a PX, a real small, just like a satellite PX rule, within short walking distance from us, but they never had anything. They never had anything except Fresca. Fresca. If you ever had a Fresca,
I love it.
Fresca is a soda pop, and Fresca was always available. But after you drink that stuff for a little while, we just don't want to drink it anymore. The Vietnamese, you couldn't give it to them; they didn't want it either. Is that like a Sierra Mist?
Yeah, it's a grapefruit. It's
Yeah.
a diet grapefruit soda, carbonated. It probably wouldn't.
Used to love Frisk.
Yeah, it probably wasn't as good as it is now because then it was aspartame. So what was that?
Well, this was probably not even
Or
diet.
tab.
This wasn't even diet.
Oh, okay. It's good
Oh.
stuff.
So anyway, you had to go to the big PX, and it seemed like it was miles away. I know we always had to walk to a certain point, and then you'd be on the highway, and you could hitch a ride, and it was easy to hitch a ride. And then you had to carry it. Whatever you bought, you had to carry it. So you didn't want to buy too many. But you had to do that every once in a while. The Hooch Maids would take a Coke or a Pepsi, but they wouldn't take a Fresca. You couldn't give Fresca away. Fresca number 10.
Oh, too funny. And so being there for 10 months, you didn't have R&R.
Yes, I did.
Did you? Okay,
That-
so where'd you go?
Oh, that Thailand,
Okay.
Bangkok. Was it for a week?
And how was that?
It was just, there was about 4 or 5 of us that went together. I know we went to watch some kickboxing. We did a lot of touristy stuff. I guess you could just say we did touristy stuff. Every time you get in a cab in Bangkok, oh man, you hang on, because they're crazy. They were just crazy. I remember we went to a lot of temples. We saw a lot of the golden Buddhas. What else did we do? We went to a kickboxing match and a sword fight. It was all for show. It wasn't real or anything. It was all just tourist type stuff. Stayed in the hotel a lot. Played around the swimming pool. I remember that. And we did go out a couple times at night. Went to a bar. And I hope this is okay to talk about this. But they had a beer, a Thai beer. It was like a 40 ouncer, a big beer, and strong as you could imagine. I don't think I ever drank one. I never finished drinking one. It was just so strong you couldn't drink one. Didn't want to drink a whole one after you started drinking. What else did I do in Thailand? Nothing I can really think of. Just like I say, touristy stuff. It was just the time to get away. Now some other things are coming to mind too. There was this doesn't have anything to do with R&R.
Right. Let's just go wherever you want.
Yeah. Like I told you, we were right on the coast. We were on the coast of Vietnam, our company area. That's where we lived, and right down the beach from us, there was some Army recon, is what they rangers. There was a ranger area. Those are bad dudes. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but they're just rangers, and they were recon, and there was also a little area down there for where they would send people to have in-country R&R. There was a little area for our in-country R&R. And I remember one time we were on the beach. We did have some time off. I don't remember how we got the time off, but we were on the beach, and one of the guys that were there, infantry guys that came in for in-country R&R, he drowned. He got pulled, got in the undertow, and he drowned there. And I thought a terrible way. You come to Vietnam to fight, and he gets time off and drowns.
Oh.
It was an awful thing to see that happen. There were other things too, kind of ironic, paradoxical things like that. I remember we were when you come in country, I forget what they called it. It was like an orientation center or whatever it was. It's just a place where you sleep basically until they assign you a place to go. You come in one of those places and you go out in one of those places. And there was well, it sounds weird, but there there was some gang activity in this place. And I remember laying in my cot at night there, and you could hear all the ruckus going on outside, fights, people fighting. And I thought that was really kind of weird that here a guy is, he's in this place, he's getting ready to go home, and he gets in a fight and gets cut up or something. And I just thought that was, they shouldn't have allowed that to happen, but they did. Well, that's one of the reasons I decided to fly for 5 months and then be on ground maintenance for 5 months, because you heard stories all the time where somebody gets killed 2 days before they're going home. I was trying to avoid that. So I was going to do my anything risky in the beginning. That's why I decided to fly at the beginning.
And what was it like your last 5 months?
Oh, well, I do remember I missed flying. Flying was good. I enjoyed flying. Not as much fun as flying.
Right.
I was in charge of a little group, a little crew, and we were basically in charge of when a helicopter came in at night or in the afternoon. We were kind of basically in charge of, if it needed any work, we were supposed to do that work to it if it was had any problems. Before we parked it away, we had to take care of it. And I don't remember too much about that. It went pretty fast. It was the same thing every day, same thing over and over again. It's cold in here. I'll shake it.
No.
Isn't it cold?
No, I'm all right. Want a blanket?
She's going to get...
Oh, okay.
You didn't turn the fan on, did you? Oh. Yes, please. I am freezing to death.
Yep.
Thank you. What else you want to know?
Well, did you make any friends? Have you kept in contact with?
Oh, that's a good question.
Skydiving experience.
Well, the skydiving experience didn't have anything to do with the Army. It was something. There was a bunch of us guys that we did it on the weekend. We were stationed in Virginia, Fort Eustis, Virginia, and we used to drive to North Carolina, Tar Heel, North Carolina. No, it wasn't Tar Heel. High Point. It was High Point, North Carolina. We would drive down there on the weekend, and we learned how to skydive. One of the guys we knew was a jump master. He was from Ohio, matter of fact. He was from Ohio, and he used to come up into Michigan and jump. He was jump master, so he got us a bunch of us guys involved in that. And one of the guys that I was involved with that, he lives in Connecticut. We've kept in touch with him and his wife and his kids.
So how was it jumping out of a perfectly okay plane?
Didn't like it.
No.
Didn't like it. When I remember it came like a package deal, the training for skydiving. You paid for, it cost $50, and you receive your training, and that paid for 12 jumps. You won't find a deal like that today. Deal. That was a good deal back then, too. Yeah. And I think I jumped 9 times.
I was just going to ask how. I feel like I'm done, huh?
Because I never got over that. It's terrifying to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. It is. And I remember being there, we learned how to pack a chute. We had our own equipment was provided for us, and we got the training. And but I never got used to that. Some of those guys get in the airplane and they go up there and can't wait to jump out. But I would be on the ground doing something and the airplane would start and my heart would just jump out of my chest because it was just terrifying. I just didn't want to. I never got used to that, so I never did finish up the training and I never jumped again. But my buddy from Connecticut, he continued to jump for a few years. I don't know how many times, but he continued. So,
What about your 4 buddies that you were with on that helo when the other one went down? How, still contact or
no, not really.
no?
No, one was, I remember their names, but we just never kept in contact with them. Except for my friend Paul from Connecticut. But the other few guys just kind of separated, and that was it.
God's sweet for you. You're good. Yeah, done a wonderful job.
So when your term ended, did you go back to school or did you go to work what did you do after?
Well, before I went in the Army, before I got drafted, I was already working for General Motors. And when I got out, I went back to work for General Motors. That's about the size of that.
I'm guessing you were excited to go home those last
Oh, yeah.
ones.
Oh, yeah. Getting out of the military is one of the best things that can ever happen to anybody. Yeah, I really enjoyed getting out. Couldn't wait to get out.
How did you feel? Because you didn't say being drafted.
How did I feel being drafted? Well, like I said, I'd always heard, and I'd always, it came to the military, you never volunteered for anything. I just decided that I was gonna allow myself to be drafted. A lot of guys joined for 3 years so they could choose what they were gonna do, right? And I just decided I wasn't gonna do that. I was going to get drafted and then let the chips fall where they may. And when you first go into the military, they test you and test you and test you. And I had aptitude for mechanical abilities, so that's how I ended up doing helicopters.
Oh.
It was kind of strange too for a draftee to end up in helicopters too, because, like I say, I was trained for 14 months.
Huh.
And then I got out. Maybe they were trying to incite me to entice me to stay in. But I was never sorry that I waited to get drafted.
And when you left country and came back, you went back to Michigan?
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. General Motors, right?
Yep. Yeah, back to work.
Mm-hmm. And how was it being a Vietnam veteran at that time? And
oh, I know. You hear a lot of horror stories, but I'd never experienced anything like that. Nobody ever spit on me or anything. Okay. But you do hear that happen a lot.
Was it a big transition coming back, or was it like?
I don't really remember a big transition. No. Not really. You just glad to be home. Home is home then. It was easier getting out than it was going in.
And did you have you said you were raised in Michigan? Did you have brothers, sisters, or?
I got 2 brothers, 1 sister. I have a baby brother that was killed in an auto accident after I got out of the Army.
Were you able to keep in touch with family at all while you were?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Well, I was your typical, 20-year-old. My mom had to get the Red Cross on my case one time since I wasn't writing home.
That's so not nice.
You know, I do remember that.
I'll vouch for you. I'll say care for you. I understand that.
Guys have different things. They different things they want. They want to write. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen after I went to Vietnam. It happened before I went to Vietnam. Lost on the States.
So did you start writing over there?
Oh yeah.
Because it's
Oh yeah. I didn't want there and getting on it again. It was, yeah. One time was enough.
another thing, sweet. Madam. So if you wanted to, go ahead. You first. No.
I was just gonna ask if you had anything else to add. But
Well, if I think about it, I can probably think of a lot of incidents that may not be of interest.
all of it.
Well, I remember one time I was thinking about this a little while ago. I remember one time in Vietnam we were delivering a water trailer. It was a little trailer. I know you've seen them in the movies. There's like a trailer that they pull behind a Jeep or a truck, and they carry about, I don't know, probably 500 gallons of water. And we used to have to haul those out to the different LZs. And one time we had a hold of a water trailer, and below that there was a net that had lumber in it. And when you're flying out to these LZs, you know, you're watching through the hole in the floor, you're watching the load, and if the load starts swinging, you know, you tell the pilot to slow down. He's going too fast, and he'll try to make adjustments so the load will stop swinging so it doesn't get all tangled up. Anyway, by the time we got to the LZ, the thing was a mess. It was all tangled up, the net and the water thing. This was something we did all the time, but sometimes it's happened. And I'm working the hole, and I'm trying to guide the pilot down to where the guy on the ground is directing me to put the load. So we put the lumber down in the net, and then you move over to the side and you put the trailer down. And we did that, put the net down, but then the trailer was tangled up in the net. So we couldn't get the barrel to sit down by itself. It was just a mess. It wouldn't sit flat on the ground. So finally, we messed around. We set the thing down. We finally just set it down. And it's hard to imagine this place where we were trying to unload this thing. You looked out the side, and there's buildings around, little shacks. We were on an LZ, and there's radio antennas, high things over here and high things over there, and the rotors are turning, you know, so we don't have much room to maneuver. But finally, we sat there hovering in that one little spot, and we were probably there 10 minutes, 12 minutes or so, trying to get that thing centered so we could get it on the ground. And finally, we just gave up on it. And I went like this to the guy on the ground. I wanted him to cut the straps. What do you call those? Wasn't just straps. Anyway, cut the straps. And he did. He went and found a knife, big old butcher knife. He comes out there and he's starting to cut a strap. And the pilot, without me telling him to do it or anything, he opened the hook and dropped the load. He could have killed somebody, and I was the enlisted 2-year guy, and I'm talking to a warrant officer or captain. I chewed him up one side and down the other for doing that without letting me. He could have at least let me tell that guy to get out of the way. I chewed him out. Anyway, I chewed him up real good on the radio in front of everybody. But I remember that. That was fun. The only time I ever really was disrespectful to an officer. And then he had it coming. Oh, that reminded me of something else. Another time, the helicopter was coming down, and there was a water trailer there. There was a water trailer again. We were picking one up, and there was a guy on the ground, and we came in over the water trailer, and you guide the pilot in. You tell him exactly how far to move, and up or down, left or right, or whatever. And I could tell that guy down there with the hookup. I wish I could remember what that was called. Those straps. Rigging. I'm going to call it rigging for lack of a better term. He was down there with his. He was scared to death. Probably the first time he ever done this. I could tell by looking at him he was afraid. He was afraid of the helicopter. He was afraid of the rigging. He was afraid of the whole circumstance. Because we come down real close, we come right down close to the ground, and you can shake hands with him, and this big helicopter hovering over you. And anyway, we had a new pilot. They all had to learn how to do this. And we had a new pilot, and I was guiding him in over this load. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but this guy on the ground, he got between the helicopter and the water trailer. He got between. And he got smushed a little bit. And I don't know how bad he was hurt, but I said to the guy, I said to the pilot, I said, sir, we just hurt that guy down there. He got between the load and the helicopter. And I heard the pilot say, because the co-pilot, the trainee, the guy in training was doing the flying, and I heard the pilot say, "I got it," and he picked that thing up and he whipped that thing around. We loaded the guy in there and took him to a medevac, a medibase or a hospital, and I'd never seen it. I didn't know that helicopter would do that. I don't know how else to explain it, but this is a big helicopter. If you've never seen it, it's a CH-47. And he whipped that thing around there and put it down so fast and so precisely. I was shocked that he even did that. And we loaded that guy up. And then I remember when we dropped him off at the hospital, the helicopter was really loud. And the guy that came out to meet us there, he wanted to know what was wrong. And I said, "He's hurt." And he went like this. And I said, "No, he's not shot. He's hurt." So they loaded him on a gurney and took him in. We took off and finished our job. We kept flying that day.
Dangerous job, even if you're not coming back.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Did you, besides drop off in the LZ, ever have to pick up?
Not that I recall. And if it was, there must have been a time when we did. If it was probably brass. All these LZs that were out in the jungle on mountaintops, they were all artillery bases, is what they were. And we took out ammo, we took out powder, and they had a place back in Chulai there. It was a big, huge dump, I guess you could say. It was a dump. That's where they dumped all the brass, all the empty cartridges from the artillery. You know what a cartridge from a handgun is like, a little bullet, the artillery shell is huge. And they used to save all those, and we bring them back and threw them in the dump. Excuse me. Good question. I wouldn't have thought of that. No, we used to, when we were flying, we didn't have a place to stop and eat. Once you left the base, our own, you were out there gone all day. And we would arrange to have a case of sea rations
We would take a case of sea rations between the 5 people on the airplane, and we'd split it up. There's about 12 meals in a case of sea rations, and we all picked out our favorite stuff. There was candy, and some of the canned stuff was good, but you wouldn't want to eat it every day. But there was some good stuff in those sea rations, especially the cookies. I remember the cookies and crackers were good.
I'm good. You're good. Anything else you want to add?
Wow, did I pretty much cover it? Did I give you enough?
Oh, you wrote, it's an amazing story, and it's your story. So I can tell you, it's awesome. I don't know if you covered it all.
Okay.
Is it yours? So is there anything else? And also, like you said, you can always just email thought of this, and we'll add it there.
Well, I could probably add one more thing
Sure.
to it. You remember they called it the My Lai massacre. Remember that? Lieutenant Calley.
Yeah.
Well, that all happened before I got there.
Okay.
But that that village that Lieutenant Calley went into was in our area. Was in our area that we flew around, and I'm not justifying anything, or I'm not saying anything about anything. But all I'm going to say is that the guys that were there when I got there said that you couldn't fly over that village without getting shot at before he went in there and cleaned it up. Very dangerous place to fly was over that village. And that brings up another one. Americans had their bases. There are little LZs around the country there. Americans had theirs, and the South Vietnamese had theirs. The South Vietnamese bases were also a place you didn't want to fly over. They would shoot at you. Your ally would shoot at you. And that reminds me of something else, too. Like, oh, man. Talk about politically correct. I remember the way it was when I was there. You'd be flying over the jungle, right? And the left and right door gunner they're responsible for watching for aircraft. They're flying, and they're supposed to warn the pilot and co-pilot. If you see an aircraft flying anywhere, you're supposed to tell them. Also, part of your job is to be watching on the ground. The Chinooks, they did not fly low. They flew high. But you still had to keep track of what was on the ground if you could see anything. And it was when I was there, if you were flying and you saw tracer rounds coming up to your helicopter, this is what you had to say on the radio. You said, "Sir, I've got fire at 2:00. Can I have permission to return fire?" You couldn't just see somebody shooting at you and then shoot back. You had to get permission to shoot because there may be friendlies down there just taking pot shots at you.
And when you say sir, who would you have to ask?
The pilot. Okay. And the pilot would radio. He would radio someplace to find out if anybody was down there. And by that time, you're gone. Yeah, there's no way of shooting back. But one time we had a airplane load of South Vietnamese soldiers. When we carried South Vietnamese soldiers, we packed them in. We could put 60 in. And when we carried American soldiers, we were only allowed to carry 30. When we carried South Vietnamese soldiers, we packed them in. We put 60 in. And you had to guide them when they got on. You had to tell them to put their weapons facing down, not up, facing down. And we were just full. We were packed. And we were flying along. And I was on the right door. I was on the right gun. And I looked down, and I saw something move. I actually saw something move. And I watched that little area.
and a couple of tracer rounds came up at us. I didn't do anything because I was afraid of panicking these guys that were in the aircraft with us. We didn't get a hit or anything, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get any 60 guys with guns in the back of the helicopter. It's not something I wanted to get excited. So I just didn't say anything.
That's a lot of people in a helicopter.
It is, but they're little. They're just little.
Stuck off like sardine.
There was another time we were carrying South Vietnamese troops. All the American guys, all of us guys had cameras. Nice cameras. You buy them from the PX, you'd be amazed what you could get for $50. A really nice 35 millimeter camera. And used to hang mine right by the door. And we were hauling South Vietnamese troops one day, and after they got off, my camera was gone. So I called the captain. I said, somebody stole my camera. And he got on the radio, and we went back, and they had my camera. They must have searched. I don't know how they found I don't know how they got it, but they got it right away. I mean, it was not a problem. Got my camera and gave it right back to me. I don't know if they took that guy and beat him with bamboo poles or what, but anyway, I got my camera back.
Any last things that you could go, or doesn't have to be last, it can be more.
More. I can think of some more. I've got one story I'm not sure I should write about.
Okay, well then you can think about that, and if
Okay.
you want to write about it, please do, and
Okay.
then we can add it. And the story, like I said, there it's yours and it's yours to tell. So if it's something you don't want anybody to know, then sometimes it helps writing it as well. Maybe you don't have to have it in your story, but you could write it down for you. Sorry, the psychologist in me's coming out. Put it back.
Well, I'm very aware.
Okay.
I really can't think of anything else.
Okay.
Oh, except for that. Oh boy. In our hooches at night, we used to sleep in a little hooch. We call it the hooch. It was like a shed. About 12 guys were staying in it, staying in the shed. We had a cot, and at night, whenever there was a rocket attack, whenever there was incoming, we would run out and go against it was like a hill. There was like a hill we used to cover, just hunker down behind this hill. We figured anything going over us would not come down where we were; it would go over us instead. So we would hunker down on the hill, and we would have we would have red alerts sometimes. Sometimes we'd be sleeping in the middle of the night. We'd have a red alert, and my friend Paul, I bunked with him, and he was a very contrary guy. He hated the Army. He was a very contrary guy. He didn't like the Army at all. And one time we had a red alert. If you have a red alert, you have to get up, get dressed. You go down to the armory, which is probably 3 blocks away, and you had to check out a weapon and then come back to your hooch. Well, I went down, checked out a weapon, come back to my hooch, and Paul's still in bed. He to me, get out. But we would have these red alerts. We would practice, and they would give us a weapon, but they wouldn't give us any ammo. So, figure that. Oh. And then you wait a little while, and they signal us over the PA system to bring the weapons back to the armory, and you lost an hour and a half sleep, and Paul didn't. He was asleep. Well, she was sleeping away. Excuse me. And stateside. Should try to think of something stateside. Can't think of anything stateside that was really interesting. I had most of my memories now.
Get it off.
You ever hear of Fort Eustis?
Have I?
Yeah.
I have.
Have you ever heard of Fort Eustis? I never heard of it either. That's where I was for most of my training. Fort Eustis, Virginia. Never heard of it. It's transportation training fort facility.
Sorry, your AIT was there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
It was Virginia.
It was Virginia. There's some parts of Virginia that are okay.
It was Virginia. It was winter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't have a car. Well, I can't really think of anything else right off the bat.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and stop recording. You good?
Sure.
Okay. And it will not be the first time I pushed record again. So if you think of something, just let me know.
Can I ask a few questions?
Yep.
I've said over. I'd be talking about hours all day. Well, you said when you were on the ocean, I thought Vietnam was hot, but you said it was cold
Oh, that night.
at night.
Okay. Even in the summertime, when you're looking out over the ocean, and that wind is blowing on you.
And it's humid. Your place sweating.
It was really at night it was cold.
Really.
It was cold. You're in that well. Imagine sitting behind in a fan behind the fan with no sun. Anyway, the idea. Okay, great cold at night.
From all the movies, you can see the hot, humid. It just thought it was a jungle like aridity type.
You were off the Red China Sea, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. We were right on the coast, but it was hot. It was the most miserable place to be as far as heat is concerned. Flying was good. You're up in these altitudes. It's durable. It's bearable. It's bearable when you're flying. But I remember sometime I had to go to the across the base. I had a cyst on my ear. Right there, I had a little cyst that broke out on my ear. I had to go to the hospital on the base. Had to walk over there, and then stand in line to get treated. And I would just stand there and just melt.
In an LZ, I don't know what an LZ is.
It's called a
Landing zone.
landing zone.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, were you by a city? Did you have any interaction with the Vietnamese, or you were pretty much self-contained?
We were not allowed off the base.
Interesting.
We were allowed. Now there were a lot of companies in different areas of Vietnam that were allowed off the base, but we were not. I think there was an incident in the Chu Lai village. I think there was an incident before I got there that they stopped all interaction.
Okay, I just had some. Like I said, it's just I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's not great. And then, well, with that, you had said made hooches or hooch maids. It's changed. It's changed its meaning from then. So would they come and clean, and you just pay them a little, or you say, soda?
I paid them a little bit. And sometimes they would ask for something to drink, or if you'd had an abundance of fresca.
Yeah, just give that up. Here, try that.
As the other way. But yeah, they did our laundering and they cleaned the hooch and nothing more than that. Pay them a little bit of MPC, military payment certificate. We didn't have money over there. It was PC. And most of them were little old ladies anyway. And they used to cook this horrible stuff. You come in like I say, we were gone all day long. All the guys were gone, and the hooch maids were there all alone. And sometimes they would cook their meals in somebody's hooch,
and you come back and it would smell terrible. It smell that they cooked with something called fish oil. This is another good story. They called it nook mao. It was fish oil, and it would stink up a whole house. It would stink up a warehouse. I mean, it was awful. And one time, like I said, one time we were carrying around Vietnamese civilians, right? And we had some stuff underneath that we were carrying in the net for them. And there was you could see down there was a big silver, either some kind of metal container full of oil. And it turned out to be that nook mao fish oil. And when we picked it up, the net tightened on that thing. There was other stuff in there too. The net tightened on that thing, and it popped on the top. And that fish oil came up in the helicopter, got all over the inside. It was my helicopter. Yeah, it was a treat getting it cleaned up afterwards. Yeah, it was a treat. Never carried any animals. Never had to carry any animals underneath.
We're all just wink.
Video taking this?
No, there's no stopping it.
What else would you like?
Have all of it.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting us at first.
Cute.
No, that's what this was too.
I know. I don't think that shot in her video, was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was just an audio.
No, videos. Oh yeah, they're both videos.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you're famous or infamous, whatever one you want to be. It'll be nice because you'll have a copy of it. And okay.
Any last question? I liked your questions because I don't even remember what we were doing, but I was walking up from one end and he was walking up. We were up on the top of it on the phone, and I expected to learn a lot from this guy. You know, he's a mechanic, he's a pilot. He's going to be just gung ho and great to learn from, and we met in the middle up on top of this helicopter, and he said, "I hate this big green piece of shit." And I remember it just flabbergasted me because I was expecting such a high attitude. You know, he's already a mechanic and a pilot. He's going to have nothing but good things to say. He says, "I hate this big green."
I am hard to work with him. Cut that red wire. Yes, red wire.
But the whole time they were in Vietnam, he was on the ground because he couldn't fly. He couldn't even be a crewman.
So you can see why I was angry.
I mean, well, at that time he didn't know. He didn't know that he couldn't fly.
Oh.
Because when you get to Vietnam, they ask you if you want to fly. You say sure. Then you got to go take a physical. Then you find out if you can or not. At least that's how I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's correct, but that's how I remember it.
Better than the rest of us remember.
All right. Well, when your story is finished,
Even in the summertime, when you're looking out over the ocean and that wind is blowing in on you,
And it's humid, you're probably sweating.
it was really at night it was cold. Really, it was cold. You're in that breeze. Well, imagine sitting behind a fan with no sun. Anyway, the idea is that it's very cold at night.
From all the movies, you often
Yeah.
see the hot, humid. It just thought it was a jumble like ready to be.
or you were off the red China Sea, right?
Yeah, we were right on the coast, but it was hot. It was the most miserable place to be as far as heat is concerned. Flying was good. You're up in it's durable. It's bearable. It's bearable when you're flying. But I remember sometime I had to go to the across the base. I had a cyst on my ear. Right there. I had a little cyst that broke out on my ear
I had to go to the hospital on the base, had to walk over there, and then stand in line to get treated, and I would just stand there and just melt.
An LZ, I don't know what an LZ is.
It's called a
Landing zone.
landing zone.
Okay, I do understand that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, were you by a city? Did you have any interaction with the Vietnamese, or you were pretty much self-contained?
We were not allowed off the base.
Interesting.
We were out of the office. Now there were a lot of companies in different areas of Vietnam that were allowed off the base, but we were not. I think there was an incident in the Chu Lai village. I think there was an incident before I got there that they stopped all interaction.
Okay, I just had to, like I said, it's just I don't want to interrupt.
No,
that's disgusting. That's a
Isn't
disgusting
that-
time to talk about.
well, with that, you had said made hooches or hooch maids. It's changed. It's changed its meaning from then. So would they come and clean and you
Yes.
pay them a little?
They paid them a little bit, and sometimes they would ask for something to drink, or if you had an abundance of fresca, you just give it up for
Hair try.
the way. But yeah, they did our laundry, and they cleaned the hooch, and nothing more than that. Paid them a little bit of MPC, military payment certificate. We didn't have money over there. It was MPC. And most of them were little old ladies anyway. And they used to cook this horrible stuff. You come in well, like I say, we were gone all day long. All the guys were gone, and the hooch maids were there all alone. And sometimes they would cook their meals in somebody's hooch, and you come back and it would smell terrible. It smell that they cooked with something called fish oil. This is another good story. They called it Nook Mao. It was fish oil, and it would stink up a whole house. It would stink up a warehouse. I mean, it was awful. And one time, like I said, we were carrying around Vietnamese civilians, right? And we had some stuff underneath that we were carrying in the net for them. And there was you could see down there was a big silver, either some kind of metal container full of oil. And it turned out to be that Nook Mao fish oil. And when we picked it up, the net tightened on that thing. There was other stuff in there too. The net tightened on that thing, and it popped on the top, and that fish oil came up in the helicopter, got all over the inside. And it was my helicopter. Yeah, it was a treat getting it cleaned up afterwards. Yeah, it was a treat. Never carried any animals. Never had to carry any animals underneath.
We're all just wait.
Are you videotaping this?
Iron.
Oh,
Then there's no stopping it.
what else would you like?
I have all the. I don't know. Whatever.
You good?
I'm okay.